This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
Changes.
Bringing together the two trains of Moraine and Lan. There is a collision that is imminent. They will not collide yet, but we are definitely, as you were just saying, we're turning two straight parallel lines into two bending, inevitably intersecting lines with today's section, which is mostly Lan. We get
Mostly
a bit of Moraine,
Lan.
but it's mostly Lan. The exciting, plot forwarding, important heavy lifting is on the Lan stuff.
And that happens, so he got a little bit in the beginning of the book, and this is the beginning. We passed the halfway point, so now this is the beginning of the second half.
It really is like the series in microcosm, you know?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so changes. What is this symbol? Oh, it's the birching triangle, isn't it?
Oh, is that what it is? I was going to ask you.
I think so.
We should absolutely look this up. Hold on.
I've never seen this in the folder of symbols that I use in the Spreaker to go with the podcast episodes. But it's a triangle of wooden sticks put together, so I think it must be the birching triangle or whatever they call it.
This is the only chapter it appears in, and it's called the square chapter icon. It doesn't. Yeah. Trader's Court of the White Tower. So, yeah.
Yeah, to watch an Aes Sedai stripped and stretched tight on the triangle, then birched until she howled. I do not understand why this is a thing. This seems like a very impractical shape to tie someone to. I guess that's what the square around it is for. But then why is there a triangle? I don't understand.
I'm thinking a little bit like Da Vinci, like Model of Man, where you have someone like kind of strapped up, except instead of a circle.
A St. Andrew's cross exists.
I don't know.
I'm confused.
The Aes Sedai are trying to be unique.
Okay, well, this seems weirdly impractical. But anyhow, that's what the symbol is for this chapter. I'm
thinking somehow tied to the theory of three, right? You've got three lines of a triangle, three oaths. Somehow each line represents something about your oath to the White Court, to the White Tower. I don't know. I'm making it up as I go along.
I'm not convinced.
It's a weird symbol. And again, this appears to be the only chapter it ever is in, right? It's not in the rest of the main series. So we have no other chapter to be like, well, in this chapter it's this, and in that chapter it's that. It's just this chapter.
Yeah, like the birching situation gets mentioned a couple of times, but yet this is the most explicitly visual instance of that.
And it does seem to be, I don't know, not that important to the chapter, in my opinion.
It's like a symbol of the new Amerlin's interpretation of justice and kind of what Moraine is running away from in some ways, but that feels like a stretch.
Yeah.
But I think it represents the transition of Amerlin's, right? The fact that we go from Tamra, who was pretty awesome, to Suian, who's like super intense and really changes the tone of a lot of things in the tower. So I think that's why it's relevant, is because that's a symbol of how much she changes everything just by virtue of being the person she is.
It really does feel like when a company gets bought out by somebody else, and it's like, well, change in management and management style and how you get promoted and whose ass you have to kiss and all those things.
Big time. Which to an extent you would expect, because it is an Aja transition, right? We're not passing to another Amerlin from the same Aja, but also this is a really intense and unpleasant transition.
But it's also a personality change, right? Like it's not just massive personality, right? That on top of the new Aja, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, but like especially in the White Tower, the Amerlin's personality makes such a big difference in how it's run.
It's not that big of an organization, as we've talked about over and over again. The sheer number of people that are involved in this isn't that many, right? So the strength of a personality does not have far to go in order to affect everyone in the institution. So should I read us into this?
Go for it. Read it.
Okay. Reading us into Chapter 14, Changes. The sisters who had said there was almost as much to learn after gaining the shawl as before were proven right in short order. Moraine and Swan had learned the complexities of White Tower customs as accepted, especially which ones had been in existence so long they had the force of law, and the penalties for violating them. Now, Rafaela and the others spent hours instructing them in the long list of blue Aja customs, accreted over 3,000 years. Suian actually retained most of what Rafaela had told them during their first walk to the Blue Quarters, and Moraine had to work hard to catch up. It would have been a shame to gain a penance for something so trivial as wearing red inside the tower. Red gems were allowed, fire drops or rubies or garnets, but the color was forbidden in clothing, a matter of some long-standing animosity between the blue and the red. So old no one was actually certain what had begun it or when. The blue and the red opposed each other as a matter of course, at times bringing the hall to a near standstill. The answer is metaphor. The answer of why red and blue hate each other in the White House is because metaphor. The White Tower.
God, yeah, I have to wonder how much this was actually supposed to represent the American politics.
It has to have been, like, so intentional. So intentional. He has 7 colors, and he just happened to pick red and blue as the progressive versus conservative, heroic versus villain leading the entire drama. Like, he had 5 other colors he could have decided to be more subtle with, and nope.
But you go with the primary colors. Blue and red are kind of the default opposition. You could do red and green, but then you're doing Christmas. So I think red and blue makes sense as opposing primary colors. And like, I could see where maybe just if you're looking at colors to oppose each other, you want the 2 most powerful to be the primary colors that do oppose each other. So I could see how we could fall into it without intending it to be a political statement.
He used so many metaphors to talk about what was going on in our world. No, he didn't do it because it was pretty. I refuse to accept that he did it because it was pretty, is the explanation. Like, he knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah, maybe.
Why am I reading about medieval torture devices right now?
Because it's the chapter icon is a medieval torture device, so that's how we went down that rabbit hole.
The Judas cradle is a bad thing. Hot take. I don't like that.
Hot take, yeah. No, I'm gonna say a torture device named after a traitor, probably not gonna be a good thing. And I'm not reading the article.
Yeah, it's unnecessary. But yeah, if anyone wants to bother themselves, that would be the search term. More relevant question to our interests. What are fire drops if they are not rubies? I'm guessing maybe red opals?
Are they not just fantasy gems? Because I feel like I've only ever heard of them in fantasy novels.
That's why I'm thinking they might be red opals. Because if you're in a medieval context, you're going to be naming them by what they look like, not by what they chemically are. And so particularly red opal would be very fiery looking. And so that might be, kind of like how rubies are just the red shade of a particular mineral that is also sapphire and emerald, whose name I'm forgetting right now. But they're all the same thing chemically. It's just the color changes. And so we name them different things.
What about like amber?
Don't they know what amber is, though? Don't they have a name for amber in this? Anyway, amber's like, I guess it's a stone kinda, but it's so different from stone. And yeah, Dr. Pants is saying that fire opal is a term that's coming up. So I'm going to go with an opal that leans really heavily onto the red colors. Yeah, there are amber to Angreal. Thank you. Or Angreal. Thank you, Lillian. So yeah, they know what amber is. They've got a name for amber. But opals come in so many colors, and they look really, really cool.
When the question was asked on Reddit, the answers were orange sapphire, topazes, opals, citrines.
Oh, citrine, Oregon sunstone. Yeah, sure, maybe. Those are really yellow, though.
Fire opals.
Yeah, I like the idea of opal because those are so sparkly.
Carnelian.
Yeah.
Red labradite.
Is that a thing? Really? I guess you can get any color, really.
And then, of course, people are like, oh, but he's mentioned opals. He's mentioned amber, right? Like,
oh, yeah, he does mention opals. Well, red opals could be worth giving their own name.
Right.
They're so pretty.
So that's one of those things that I feel like is just like, oh, yeah, we want a fantasy stone. Call it a fire drop and move on. The Rain Wilds in Realm of the Elderlings. So Realm of the Elderlings, definitely by Robin Hobb. I feel like she has like sun drops or there's fantasy gems that they find and they spread around. Yeah.
Man, freaking fantasy stereotypes. Or not stereotypes, fantasy cliches. This is like drop like a sack of potatoes. Kind of
Yeah,
cliche.
really.
It's like there's some terms that my
Mhm.
mom was asking me about this earlier when we were recording. She wanted to know some cliches that annoyed me because she had a couple of sewing cliches she wanted to talk about. Well, one in particular. And I, of course, couldn't think of, I'd never heard a cliche in my life when she asked me that question, except I could think of the sack of potatoes one. And now this is another one, is just throwing in random word salad to describe various rocks and gems and trees to make your fantasy land seem a little bit different. But
It's not Earth, or it is Earth, and we just call it something, the names are different enough. Even though they're speaking English, so why not use the English terms for the things?
yeah, at least in his Dark Materials, they actually had like world building levels of explanation for that, of like, oh, this is part of how you can tell they're subtly different worlds, is because certain word choices ended up like, zigging instead of zagging, right? So you have chocolatl instead of chocolate and stuff like that.
That was also a book where they had our world in it, right? Like, this
Yeah.
one doesn't. I mean, maybe somewhere far in the past, right?
Well, book 1 is just in a fantasy world. You don't get our world till book 2,
Right.
technically. But yeah, it's a thing.
That doesn't even have to necessarily be our world. It could just be, an age a lot like our world.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be our world.
I know. But it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, I'm just saying the author actually bothered to put some world building behind that instead of just waving his hands to make it seem like fantasy. He actually was like, no, this is part of like how I constructed the palette from which I'm drawing the story. Anyway, we're going to spend a couple more paragraphs talking about Aja alliances. I don't really feel the need to go into it super intensely. It's just, we're speedrunning. Oh yeah, we're not speedrunning. We're delving into all the different Aja dynamics as they existed 20 years before the present day.
This is a montage of information you don't learn until you become an Aes Sedai. You don't learn how to bond a warder. You don't learn how to resist heat and cold. You don't learn about Aja loyalties, right? These are all the things that become part of sort of like, okay, now you're an Aes Sedai. We can let you in on some secrets that only Aes Sedai know, because when you were accepted, you weren't, good enough to know those secrets. And the first line, there was almost as much to learn after gaining the shawl as before. Right. So then it's basically list off all the things they have to learn.
Yeah. And this is also where she learns like the ant attracting weave that she's going to use on land. Right. This is where she sort of realizes that the listening weave that she's kept secret is something she's going to keep secret continuously. And maybe other sisters have stuff like that too. Right. We know that Varen uses that to rebuild compulsion later, or it probably is actively working on it and using it in the field at this point. Just lots of cool stuff we know about the power coming up.
Also, like seeing Moraine look at Suian going, God, she picks it up so fast every time. I can barely keep up. And I would love to see from the other POV, because I'm sure Suan's like, God damn, Moraine's so talented, and she's
100%,
got the,
yeah.
It's definitely the oh, she's so good with men or whatever, but that version of
Exactly. You 100% Swan is looking at Moraine going, man, I wish I was as smart as her. I wish I was as whatever the specific talent is. Like,
right, because they're both insanely talented, and all Moraine sees is her own flaws and Suan's achievements.
We also get a nice long lesson on the trick of concentration. Not just, oh, it's a trick of concentration, but actually a whole paragraph description of how the process works, which is actually remarkably similar to how we found balance in Aikido. These instructions for how to do the heat and cold trick actually starts out very much like how in Aikido it's you find your center of gravity, both mentally and physically. And like these instructions are really close to that, actually. It's pretty funny. Yeah, this isn't just some random word salad. This is actually based on, there's many ways people have chosen to redirect and control their minds that kind of all are the same in a lot of ways. This space below and down, and yeah.
And I like that he represents that you have, you have the flame in the void, you have the Cody, you have, what's going on here about learning how to annoy heat and cold. Like those all kind of come together to become the same thing, which is like a level of concentration. And so all the different cultures have different ways of describing it and different ways of getting there.
It's a meditative altered state that allows access to literally supernatural abilities for some people and just surprisingly good normal abilities for other people. And then the next thing I have is Moraine proving that she is in fact Rand's spiritual mom. because she gets a bunch of invitations to a ball that she doesn't want to engage in because Daystamar is dumb, so she throws the cards into the fire. A dangerous move, but she's not playing the game of houses. She's hiding, damn it. And I'm like, you are literally Rand's spiritual mom. It's so cute.
I was like, do you really not know what else to do with invitations? That has to be a callback. That has to be an absolute
100%,
callback. Yeah.
for sure.
When he's writing this, he has to be like, what'll I have to do with the invitations? She'll have to burn them. Because then she's also an immature kid, right? That's the idea. Is like the immature kid who doesn't really know what they're doing and fleeing from her responsibilities of being a queen.
Yeah, that's exactly what I see in it. Is like 20 years later, if she had been there with Rand, she would have recommended doing something else, right? 20 years later, she's more chill, less reactive, more clever, more subtle. But here, yeah, she's a freshly minted adult, just thrown out into the world of having to figure this all out, and she's freaking out and just throws everything in the fire. Exactly like her Save Your Son will be doing in 20 years. It's so cute. Because in book 2, you get the sense that Moraine would never have advised that, right? Rand's doing that because he's driftless. But like, yeah, Moraine would have done that at one point.
She's made the mistake, right? That she would now tell him not to make.
Although I think it works out fine for her in this case.
Well, yeah, because she runs away real
There's
good.
No lesson that she learns from, like, I mean, maybe she would have advised him to do this in book 2. But I feel like when you're reading book 2, you're like, well, obviously this is what a rash teenager does, and Moraine would never. And it's like, well, when Moraine was a rash teenager, she would.
We see Suian struggling with her appointment at first, but then sort of leaning into it and, becoming practiced, good, excited. I'm not really sure what goes on there.
I think she gets engaged. I think she finally gets hooked on a project and her curiosity gets piqued. So you try to make yourself start a job, start a book, start an email, whatever it is, and then you get into the flow and you realize that, like, what you were pushing yourself to do, you've now done. She goes through that transition, but with a whole ass career. And it takes her all of 5 days to completely lose having a polite tongue. Now she is the foul-mouthed, fish guts flinging swan that we know and love. It takes her
once she becomes Aes Sedai, because no one can call her down because they're above most people.
Fish guts.
I have a theory that she goes from hating the job and then she finds out that this woman is actually the spy master for the Blue, and that it's not just puzzles and bullshit, that it's actually spying for the Blue Ajah, and all of a sudden she's fully in.
No, she knew that already.
Did she?
Because
Okay.
the day she comes back from her interview and tells Moraine about it, Moraine puts it together, and Swan says, I wasn't supposed to tell anyone. And So she knows, but yeah, I think that for whatever reason, she realizes the power with information that she could have there. Partially probably the hunt for the boy child, right? Part of it is going to be, I'll be able to, like, catch reports of stuff. But I think she also just gets drawn into some other project. I think somehow Satalia is able to get her invested in some project that just hooks her curiosity. It's not just little puzzles. It becomes some bigger, like, we're going to unravel some, actual real world meaningful problem. And then Swan's like invested because she's a Blue, right? She's a seeker after causes. I mean, Satalia is a Blue also. Like, it's the blue eyes and ears, but she's an uber Blue.
An effective administrator can get more done than someone out in the field doing the work in some cases, right? Because if you can make the right connections and point people in the right direction, you can save a lot of work by making sure the right work is done at the right time by the right people.
Yeah.
So, and you can also cause a lot of work by pointing the wrong people to the wrong job at the wrong time. Ask me how I know. I go to work every day.
Yeah.
And that's something, people like, the head rots from the top. And part of that is just like, if people are wasting work, if people are doing the wrong thing, if you're pointed in the wrong direction, it doesn't matter how effective you are. It doesn't matter how efficient you are. You're never going to accomplish the goal. But if you have someone at home who can point you in the right direction, point you at the right village, find out who the boy is, manage all the politics so you don't have to while you're out searching for him.
Right. Yeah, totally. Swan's probably seeing the potential to arrange the nations of the world to be ready, right? Like, that's a huge part of the appeal. Make sure that certain ideas and policies are or are not emphasized.
Yeah.
There's a lot of attraction there.
I would have liked to see more evidence of that.
Well, I'm just saying, like, I can see where the appeal is. It's getting her involved. Is
Right.
seeing that wide open horizon of potential. It would have been nice if any of it was realized, but, she's young and idealistic.
It's like the Amerlin Seat of 10 years knew the Dragon Reborn was coming. She should have absolutely done more to get the nations ready and united. Like, that's one thing I do. Like, I love Suian. Like, I think she's a great character. I really love the thing she does. But I think she was incredibly short-sighted on what she was doing with the White Tower in terms of the White Tower politics, the way they were stayed divided, the way she didn't unite. You know, there needed to be this, like, almost call to action to be like, we have signs that the last battle is coming. We need to start uniting. And not this, like, you're the Amerlin Seat. You don't need to continue your secret. I guess you do need to continue a secret mission because of the Black Oddjaw keeps murdering people who don't.
I think that's a big part of it, is that 10 years or however many years under this hard-ass, probably kind of paranoid taskmistress, and seeing all that Black Oddjaw shenanigans going down. Once she finally gets to the Amerlin Seat, yeah, the concept of openness is like many years in the rear view. Like, absolutely not. And I think it's a flaw she has. It's not good, but it makes sense given that she's immediately taken under the wing of a harsh taskmistress who is also the spy master. And she just sees all the other agents dying mysteriously. Like, yeah.
The distribution of the money.
Yeah, so Moraine gets put in charge of the distribution of the money, which we were talking about earlier. Shouldn't this not take very long? Shouldn't this be easy? Shouldn't this go by quickly? Moraine has those thoughts too. Sure seems like the tower is making this take longer just to keep her tied down. Seems like that's what's going on. But yeah, she's trying to make the money go out faster, but it's also giving her a chance to calibrate to the scale of how hard it's going to be to find these women. Because women are tearing out of here like bats out of hell, now that the war is over.
Over this time, Elid dies in her test, or disappears.
And then Elid dies, which I wanted to point out, the White Tower's approach to a massively traumatic event is to just sweep it under the rug and shove it down and pretend it never happened. And I'm like, that is the worst way you could take a team of people and help them handle the loss of one of their own. This should be a massive grieving and catharsis and bonding experience. And instead, they're just like, who? Like, they're so toxic. Oh, my God.
What? Just because they're like, we don't want to scare the accepted? Or, like, I'm not really sure what the logic there is.
What? To just
just sweep it? Yeah, to just sweep it under the rug and make not a big deal out of it.
It makes no sense. It's a traumatizing event. Everyone knows that she died. She was people's friend. People looked up to her. She dies, and your reaction is to pretend you don't know who they're talking about? Like, that is not gonna help people. That's not good. That's not healthy. But it's what they do because they hate mental health.
Elida is off to be back in Andor as an advisor.
Yep, she takes off, gets out of everyone's hair for a bit. Lelaine comes back into the picture and is very nice to them, right? We see her and Swan having this history when we're in Saladar, right? Lelaine and her have a particular history, and it goes back to her reaching out to them and becoming friends with them at the beginning of their tenure as Blue Sisters.
We also see Adine Canford, who, in one of the books, she receives messages for Moraine sent to the White Tower.
Yes. So she's like the Blue Oddjaw's postmaster.
Yeah. So she's yeah. Well, I think she's just Moraine's friend, right? As we know, she's like part of this friend group, and so Moraine just uses her as a trusted friend to receive messages. And I think that this is sort of, she's only really mentioned once, but this is saying this is where that friendship came from. And it's been a long friendship between them, even though she's basically only ever mentioned once more in the series.
Right. It seems like she was Leanne's friend. And then when Leanne picks up her friendship with Swan and Moraine again, she's like, oh, and here's my buddy who I've met in the meantime. So yeah, that's cool. Displayed not a hint of arrogance, despite being Andoran. Okay, Kyrian and snobby princess.
That's some good POV writing, Jordan.
Mm-hmm. And then the searchers leave. Mylan, Karenni, Aisha, Ludis, and Valera. They all leave. And there's no news, but they all leave. And everything's just going very slow. And this is the part where we get that she removes all the lace from her rooms, but Anaya's so disappointed about it that she leaves the lace on her bed. And that makes Swan giggle. Swan likes the lace on the bed. And I'm like, yeah, because Swan has strong opinions about what's going on in your bed.
Speaking of, she's having nightmares. The Babe in the Snow, the Faceless Man, and the Sun Throne.
Yep.
Who's the Faceless Man?
Wait, the faceless man on the sun throne? What?
Her nightmares continued of the Babe in the Snow and the Faceless Man and the Sun Throne. Like, those are 3 different things.
Yeah, I think she's just dreaming of the Dragon Reborn as a grown-up.
Okay. I'm going with, I was thinking Murdral somehow.
Oh, yeah, no, I think it's just Rand grown-up. They both managed to make terrible pies, which is hilarious.
One is inedible, the other one is, like, food poisoning.
And then Shiriam passes her test, and she's a very good cook, and Swan manages to get her pie. Because Shiriam actually likes cooking and wants to make good food. And I just think it's a cute little human dynamic running through these, grad students, basically.
And one would assume at this point Shiriam is not a dark friend.
Correct. If she's only just been raised as of the pie, she's making the pie because she was just raised, then yeah, she's not Black Aja yet. There's still time. Don't do it. But I will point out, so they talk about bringing her into the search.
Yes. That's why I want to point out.
And how, it's really hard to talk her out of it. And it's like, yeah, she's not a dark friend yet, but she is a really big gossip. And I'm like, I wonder if that's how she gets into being Black Aja, is because she's just such a gossip that she ends up getting more and more into the like backstabby side of gossip and less just the fun sharing of secrets. And because when she thinks about being Black Aja later, she says that's how you rise in White Tower politics.
Right.
It gossip into rumor, into like backstabby politicking, right? There's a logical stepwise thing there where she just like joins the extra shitty sorority to get a little farther, and now she's a dark friend, right? Like you kind of see that in, oh, she's such a big gossip, we can't trust her with the end of the world because she just likes knowing things too much, sharing that she knows things too much. It's interesting. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm overreading into it, but I want to try to see, like, why did she become Black Aja based on the fact that we know she isn't here? Like, where's the seed? Best I got is the gossiping.
And just that, like, that personality trait might be something that they look for in recruits, right? Like, that sort of, like, cruelty or, that might be one of those key flags that got picked up on by the other Black Aja Mistress of the Novices, right? There's so many of them, I can't keep track.
Right.
We see Rima Galfrey, who I believe is one of the women who get taken by the Shanchan.
Yeah. Her life won't get shitty for a while. But yeah, so they're doing good with getting a new, pretending that Ella didn't die and having a new sister get raised. And then Tamra died in her sleep. Anyway.
No, she didn't. Case point in order, she did not die in her sleep. She was tortured by the Black Aja that got all the information, all the names of the people who left to search for the Dragon Reborn out of her, but did not get Moraine and Suan's name.
They did not get knowledge of their book.
Right.
They did not get knowledge of their list, knowledge of their self-appointed mission. All of that was locked behind one tiny scrap of defiance.
And I have to assume it was a technicality in the oath, which was tell us about all the Aes Sedai who you've told about this plan. And they weren't Aes Sedai at the time. They were accepted.
And Tamra, if she was a weak-willed person who was willing to throw people under the bus, could have volunteered that information. But because she's a true blue and Amerlin and just an upright woman with a, heart of, soul of iron, she was able to decide, I'm not going to volunteer that in hopes that it makes the pain stop. I'm going to hold on to that because the technicality means that I can. So I'm going to.
So she can say the truth. Those are all the Aes Sedai I told about this. There are no other Aes Sedai who know anything about this. Although at the time they had been raised, so it would be a little,
But they weren't she never gave them the charge. They were not Aes Sedai when they got involved. They did not word the questions correctly, and that's what saved Swan and Moraine, was because they didn't ask the question thoroughly enough.
That not telling Shiriam, because when Shiriam got recruited, she would have eventually flipped on him.
Man, that the fact that Swan wanted to bring Shiriam in and it took Moraine hours to talk her out of it is just, the world hinged on that hours-long argument. Swan almost made the wrong call. And Rima's not Black Aja, right?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I had it in my head for some reason that the announcement came from a Black Aja, so it was extra zesty, but that's not true. I just made that up, apparently. I was expecting that as I came up to this section. I was like, oh, but that's not one of the known Black Ajas.
Mm-mm. No, she's Pura. She gets,
Right, exactly. She has a horrible fate, but it's not because she made bad choices.
She's a wrong place, wrong time type person that she just happened to be in Falma when it got taken over.
And so, yeah, Moraine's first thought about this, well, technically her very first thought is, oh no, but her first cogent thought is, how does this affect me? And that makes her feel really bad. So she wears a dress that makes her feel incredibly indecent and exposed and miserable for the whole thing as this self-imposed, like, penance thing, which is just such a princess move. She buys a dress that she knows she's going to hate because of this whole drama with the seamstress, and then she wears it once to make everyone think that she's really weird, so that way she feels embarrassed, and then she burns the entire dress. All that labor, just burns it because it makes her fifis feel funny. Very princess move.
I was gonna say rich people shit.
Big rich people energy.
I like the little note that the whites wear black ribbons to signal mourning, because otherwise they would look like they're showing off as part of their white uniform.
Right, yeah. For the white Aja, the color white is not a color of mourning. It's a normal Aja respectful color, and black is the color of mourning. And that's weird. That's a weird one-off Aja thing. And yeah, it's a fun little inverse from our world where, yeah, white is for celebrations. Well, that's actually not true. White is a color of mourning in some other cultures, but in our culture, black is the color of mourning. But it is a color of mourning in India, I want to say. And probably elsewhere. Okay, yeah, Marzipan's saying yes. It's the Western world versus literally everyone else because, of course.
Of course. And this is where we get the new the new Amerlin, who is a bit of a taskmaster.
Sieran Vayu, a red at heart who chose gray for some inexplicable reason.
Red and gray clothing. Probably for political reasons, to get up to the Amerlin seat. That's my guess. Because then she could get support from both the red and the gray.
I mean, I don't know if she was going for the Amerlin seat when she chose her Aja. I don't know if she's quite that cynical.
Yeah. You've never met some career political kids, man. They can be cynical as hell about their choices in early life.
Yeah, that's not who Aes Sedai are as a class. They're not political kids. Like, Aes Sedai are not Nepo babies as a class. So.
Fair. We don't get a lot of necessarily more detail about her. She rules for 5 years before she is... Well, Chesmel convinces the Red Aja to kill her, funny enough.
Yeah, because she's not Black Aja. I think she's just kind of caught between wanting to be a hard ass in two different ways, and she picked the legal route instead of the being Red Aja route, because then she could mess with more people, right? I just don't think this proves my long-standing argument that picking an Aja for your entire life, picking one of 7 bins to be in for your entire multi-century long career is dumb, because people contain multitudes and they change over time. And I think Sieran Vayu is a great example of that, because everyone's like, why is she a gray if she's actually a red at heart? And it's like, well, you're stereotyping both the Ajas. Clearly something about the gray appealed to her very strongly, and she was forced to split the difference. But she's really red about her approach to men, right? She dismisses all the male clerks, all the male guards. She's not into having men around at all. And then she's also not into women having fun in any way, shape, or form. Small slights are turned into big problems. Women get exiled. Women get strapped to medieval torture devices and tortured behind a soundproof barrier, so that way only Aes Sedai know that Aes Sedai beat up other Aes Sedai. It's a very massive tone shift. And it kind of reminds me of how Elida focuses the tower on policing itself rather than on helping the world, right? Like, obviously, they're very different women. They have very different motivations, but there's something about this kind of person that makes the White Tower devour itself rather than be in service to the world, you know? Someone I posted in chat that many Eastern and Indigenous cultures use white to represent purity and the soul's release from the material world. Yeah, so I don't know what about the misery of Europe made us decide black was the color for death and mourning. There it is. Oh, and also the other thing about this Amerlin is that she chooses her own keeper and mistress of novices, and they're both red. Well, one of them I believe is black, but they are both publicly facing red.
Amira is just red. Duhara is black.
Isn't she pretty high up in the Black Aja hierarchy, too? Oh, yeah, and the legend said also in China, too. Yeah, that makes sense.
She's the one that Elida sends to be to Canluum to be an advisor to Elida, who, like, walks in all, like, arrogant.
To Elaine?
To Elaine, yes.
When she's doing her bid for the throne, right?
Yeah.
So she's well trusted and liked by Elida, at least. I mean, to the extent that Elida trusts and likes anybody, which is not high.
But nothing about her being high up in the...
Okay, she just does stuff in the plot later that makes her a relevant antagonist. So yeah, she's presumably a Black Aja at this point and is installed. I mean, to some extent, Suian picked her, but to some extent, she's also being installed. Keep an eye on the Amerlin, I would think.
I mean, you can basically assume that a keeper is black, right? It's shocking that Lelaine isn't black. Honestly,
I know, right?
At this point,
yeah.
Right? Like, oh my goodness. They keep slipping them in over and over and over again.
Yeah, and who knows why Suian picked her, presumably because she wanted to have, strong, aggressive women who had red values in her space, so that way she could, be the Aja she really wanted to be.
But I can't believe that the Black Aja didn't have a hand in placing her after killing the previous Amerlin and getting this one in place, right? Like,
yeah, one would assume that they have ways of influencing what an Amerlin is thinking.
And it makes me think that part of why she chose two reds is to hide the fact that she had to choose this Black Aja. Not that I think she is black, but I think she was influenced to choose a black, even though it didn't match her chosen Aja.
Right. There's a lot of parallels with Elida specifically, right? Choosing a keeper who's not of your Aja, having someone with a really strong pride in the Red Aja in that office. There's a lot of bits and pieces of what happens with Elida, just arranged slightly differently. So yeah, Moraine goes to Suian and says, "Can I please be released from doing clerical work?" And Sierra's response is, "Yeah, I wish we could get rid of the bounty, but, for PR reasons, we won't. Also, sit your ass down. You don't get to leave. You can stop doing bureaucratic stuff. That's fine if you want to not do the clerical stuff, but you do not get to leave because we are using you for plots." She's very naked about it, and that gives Moraine the permission she needs to cut loose.
I mean, I don't see how that's any different than just leaving without that permission, but okay, whatever.
No, it's not permission in that sense. It's in Moraine's mind, she was waiting for something to break to tell her now is the time. This is that. This is a sign. It's not permission. This is her sign to get out. It's not. It is explicitly not permission. It is explicitly do not leave. She goes into disobedience to the Amerlin, but she takes this as her sign to get out.
And she somehow technicalities into, I'm not allowed to cross a bridge, and so I'll take a boat instead, and that doesn't count as leaving, even though she's told explicitly to stay. I don't understand how she's able to, like, Aes Sedai her way around that.
Because it's just a lie to talk to someone. She doesn't promise not to leave. So this is just about her ability to say to another Aes Sedai with a wink and a nod, "Good thing I don't plan to leave over a bridge." Because she will be stopped if she tries to go over a bridge. And the Aes Sedai says, you're going to get stopped if you try to go over a bridge. And Moraine says, good thing I'm not planning on going over a bridge because I am also Matt's spiritual mother. And that is what Matt does, right? When he is unable to leave over a bridge, he manages to hop his way onto a boat. And that's how he gets away. And that's what Moraine does too. She uses the wordplay to not arouse anyone's suspicions. But she never made a promise not to cross a bridge. It's not like that sort of a loophole.
So she's got enough money to essentially buy anything she needs.
Yeah, she goes to the bank, picks up a bunch of money, goes to the seamstress, picks up a bunch of clothes, and then grabs a boat and bails on out of there. But with much less drama than Matt, right? There's no lucky night, there's no footpads, there's no leaping the gap as the boat pulls away from the dock. It's all very orderly. But it is just a few steps ahead of that Kyrianan assassin dude who had tried to get to her bank account and who is not trying to get to her for Kyrianan reasons. He's trying to get to her for Black Aja reasons, we think. She thinks it's about Kyrianan plot stuff, though.
I don't know. I think it's just a Kyrianan plot stuff. I think he might just be a coincidence because she later attributes the attacks, the Black Aja attacks, to him, which means I think they're not. Right. So I think he's just Kyrianan, and I don't think she leaves him on the dock, and I don't think she ever sees him again. Gorthanis is his name. Kyrianan man, because, this is the last time we actually see him in the book.
Okay, but he is a smokescreen for all the actual Black Aja shenanigans, Dark Friend shenanigans, because she's like, oh, it's just Kyrian and stuff. And it probably was. Him was just Kyrian and stuff. But the Black Aja Dark Friendery is not him or Kyrian and stuff.
And then there's multiple times throughout the rest of the book where Moraine's thinking, oh my God, that Canadrin, one of the later, tries to kill her, and he tells Moraine he was hired, but he doesn't tell her by who, and she thinks it must be Gorthanis, right? And like, you know, she worries later that she reveals her presence, he'll know about her presence. Like, so she thinks about him multiple times, but he never appears again. So one thinks that he's just this red herring on where the attacks come from.
Okay, cool. And yeah, she sails out of the chapter into an adventure as grand as any ever undertaken by an Eyes to Die. She's just so the boys and Egwene leaving the Two Rivers. It's just so that energy all over again, and I love it.
Because, yeah, I mean, if she's been in the White Tower since she was 14, she probably didn't have much of a chance to, you know, go adventuring before she was 14. Right. And then she's been a novice and accepted the rest of the time, where, like, forbidden to leave the city. So now, for the first time as an adult, she's going out into the world.
To save the world.
Just a little bit.
Small mission for her first trip to, you know, out after college. And yeah, that's the end of my notes for chapter 14. So chapter 15 has another symbol that I don't think we see very often. This is a stag with a hell of a rack, and it's called Into Canluum.
Nice rack.
It's a very nice rack.
Let's see. The red stag Varan in Canluum. So this is just for this one dude.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering about that. Is this just the one time? All right.
And as far as I can tell, yes, this is the only chapter in which this chapter icon gets used. Funny they give us some new chapter icons that just get totally abandoned.
Yeah. And this first line of this chapter includes the title of the book. The air of Candor held the sharpness of new spring when land returned.
Because we've had a time jump, right? It's what, 3 months later?
1 month? Some number of months, whatever the travel time was. Lan said it was going to be a month, but then Bukama wanted it to be longer.
I think a month for them, but this is about 3 months since Moraine left Tarvalin, right? Because we've been jumping around in time a little bit between the two timelines.
Right. So on her perspective, it said that the Feast of Lights happened, right?
So that was
mentions
Christmas
the Feast
time.
of Lights, and now he's mentioning the coming Beltane dances. So yeah, that's the beginning of spring. So yes, we have shifted 3 months in the timeline because, yeah, these are not perfectly lined up. So he's been on the road for a month, but Moraine has been on the road for 3 months as of this point. Cool.
I guess I should read us in. The air of Candor held the sharpness of new spring when land returned to the lands where he had always known he would die. Long past the arrival of spring in more southerly lands, here trees bore the first red of new growth, and a few scattered wildflowers dotted winter-brown grass, where shadows did not cling to patches of snow. Yet the pale sun offered little warmth after the south. Gray clouds hinted at more than rain, and a cold, gusting breeze cut through his coat. Perhaps the south had softened him more than he knew. A pity if so. He was almost home. Almost.
I just checked the beginning of the next chapter for next week's reading, and yes, Moraine does say she's been on the road for 3 months as she rolls up into Candor.
Nice.
Completely. Yes. So yeah, back to brooding with Lan in cold weather.
In the Borderlands. This is just like a lot like Lan, but also you can see the youngness in him. I like the way Robert Jordan writes the youngness into these characters and the inexperience.
He's such a edgelord. He's so emo. Oh my God.
He's just this rule follower and kid who has never done anything outside his culture that he was raised inside of. He's on his Rumspringa.
He's never had fun. Apparently he knows how to fuck in bed. He's traveled the world, but he's never had fun. He's just angry about everything.
He knows how to fuck because the Bukama took him to a goddamn brothel and said, here, fuck these women.
No, it's because he got raped by a woman twice his age for a fucking
there's
year
that too.
Or whatever.
Yeah, that's right.
I wish that Bukama had taken him to a brothel and gotten him a group sex experience. That would have been way healthier than what did happen. Rumor even spoke of a man who channeled the power, but then rumor often did. That can't be anyone who's relevant in the modern day, even if the wildest extremes of Taim doing his thing. It can't be him because we're 20 years.
Yeah.
prior.
So my guess is that the Black Ajah is hunting for. They don't know how old the Dragon Reborn is, so they're hunting for someone who's channeling and lucky, right? So they're killing off lucky people, and so they're looking for someone who can channel, and that's turning into rumors of someone who can channel.
If there's smoke, there's fire kind of logic.
Right. If someone's looking for someone who can channel, then there must be someone who can channel. That's kind of where I'm assuming that rumor's coming from.
Given how vague of a rumor this is, that tracks, yeah.
Because he also says that the Aes Sedai are everywhere since the last Amerlin's death, and we just have to assume that's Black Ajah swarming around looking for candidates, because nobody else knows.
And bounty stuff, right?
Some, but like the bounty stuff mostly seems to be people coming and going. I think that's not really gone up to the Borderlands, because they were just looking for people locally in that around Dragonmount. They're not going up to the Borderlands to look for.
Well, they're going to the Borderlands if the women went back home to the Borderlands without receiving their bounty.
Sure. That's possibly some of it, yeah. But
I mean, it's got to be both, right? Like to make for such a huge flurry. Because again, there's not that many Aes Sedai, so.
right.
So Bukama's grumbling aggressively, grumble, and then they end up here, and he shags the innkeeper. It's great.
She doesn't really give much of a choice, because again, this is Borderland race relations, gender relations, where women really do have final say in who they get to sleep with, and Lan is very much of that passive, whatever you say, ma'am, right?
And likewise Bukama, yeah.
Right.
He apparently left this woman 6 years ago, but I mean, he's just grouchy for like pages, right? He like almost gets into a fight at the gate guard, like with the gate guards, and like promises not to use his sword as like a apology. Like he's just such a ticking time bomb. Like when we saw him before, he's like, let's relax and chill out. And now we're seeing him here, and he is just like picking fights with everyone and everything.
Is it him or is it Bukama picking the fights?
Bukama.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I thought you were implying Lan was the one picking the fights.
No. Lan's having to deal with Bukama being like that. Oh, right. And when they're also on the gate or going into the city, this young kid is like, I stand ready. And Bukama says, I stand ready for what? This is why Lan has to go face his rapist. I mean, Karn-Aira, is because she started rumors that the Golden Crane is getting raised, and everyone's getting excited about.
And you know who that kid is, by the way?
Is that Bulin? No, it's the Kandori Prince. No, I don't know who it is.
It is Ondare. He's a guard in the town of Canluum in Kandor.
Is he another one of those guys that shows up?
Andair, Nazir, and Rakim join Lan and Bulin on the Plain of Lances in Towers of Midnight, Chapter 7.
Yeah.
He's one of those who sort of is joining the charge against Malkier and says, I remember you scolded me about. He basically recounts this incident when he meets Lan.
Nice. Okay, cool. But yeah, so we get this sense of like what the Borderlands are like, what they're trying to keep out with the eyeless, and everyone knows Lan, and yeah, Bukama promises not to draw his sword. Basically peace bonds it verbally.
Yeah, just a lot of Malkier culture stuff, right? I feel like that's...
Well, it's Kandor, but it's Borderlands, but there's a lot of Malkieri refugees, right? It's that whole melting pot thing.
But because it's from Lan's POV, we're getting his sort of take on the culture and like what norm is and like what's rude and what the people who aren't wearing the Hadori anymore, and the women who aren't wearing the Kai'Sain, and like he's really judging the people for not following the ways of the Malkier.
Yeah, I mean, he's judging them for like bowing to mere fashion with letting women have face veils.
Although the idea of a Murdral and drag is quite funny.
I mean, I'm down. I want to see it. I want to see it. We also get some really interesting thoughts here from him about warders. The Hadori could be enough to attract the interest of his sister seeking a warder. Supposedly, they asked before bonding a man, but he knew several who had taken that bond, and every time it had come as a surprise. Who would give up his freedom to trot as an Aes Sedai's heels unless there was more to it than asking?
You do.
And I think it's so interesting because He never seems to be aware that there's a magical aspect to it or know any of the benefits. He treats it as though it's just a verbal command to obey. And then Moraine slaps a complete bond on him that gives them, like, emotional telepathy. And he never comments on it. But I think it's a little weird here how he thinks, oh, yeah, there's more to it that I don't know about. And then he doesn't get mad at her when it turns out there's more to it. She never explains it to him. She never tells him, oh, it'll make you a better warrior. Like, he points out the problem here, but then that ends up being an unfinished thread.
I think that it's just the details don't matter to him at that point, where he's like, okay, I accept the bond, whatever that happens to be. And then he only learns about it more later once he's bonded.
But he's not mad about it because now he knows he's on the Save the World mission, so any cost is acceptable.
Yeah, kind of, with Lan.
God, that man is way too stoic for his own good.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, there's also this mention of murders in the street this last month and strange accidents. I think, again, that's Black Ajah killing lucky, quote-unquote, men. Again,
we are 3 months out from the Black Ajah getting the information that lucky men need to be killed. So then we see Nazar. Is that the same Nazar?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Nazar Kiranen. Yeah, so all of those guys that we see as old men that Lan recognizes, we're seeing all of them here. Cool. Yeah, and then Lan thinks about how hard it is to deal with being a celebrity, basically, and how he doesn't want to go up to the Lord's palace to get a warm welcome. He doesn't want that. He wants to just go find an inn and be anonymous. Oh yeah, I guess they don't even get to the inn this chapter. I guess that's the next chapter. This chapter went by really fast. There's very little here. It's just Bukama and Lan walking into the town.
No, it's a short chapter, yeah.
Seeing a bunch of people to get angry at. Like, that's the entire chapter. Okay. All right, so the next chapter is where actually the most of the interesting stuff that I already mentioned happens. Chapter 16, The Deeps. It just picks up exactly where they were. And the symbol is, I think this is a symbol we get.
This is Lan's helmet.
This is Lan's helmet. We see this one many other
all
books.
The time. Yeah. Tons.
Yeah.
This is, let me just do a quick, oh, no, it's only in New Spring.
Really?
3 chapters of New Spring, chapter 1, 16, and 25.
Oh.
But that's, as far as I can tell, the only chapters it's in.
Interesting. So yeah, they're trying to find an inn to sleep in, and Lan, by coincidence, happens to decide to check for realsies on an inn where Bukama happens to have baggage with the innkeeper, and that gets them a room. Well, it gets Lan a room and Bukama space at the foot of her bed. But
Lan gets the warhorse a few other times, so he has 2 symbols.
Ooh, isn't he fancy? And then while Bukama is being hustled off to make out with his ex-girlfriend, Dark friend alert, Reen Venamar shows up. Lan's oldest friend aside from Bukama, his only age-relevant, age cohort friend, the one person he might not feel nihilistic towards. And it's a dark friend who's going to betray him and try to kill Moraine.
This is very James Bond to me when the other agent turns out to be working for Blofeld or whatever, right? Like best friends forever, trusted each other's life many times. Turns out he's turned to the bad guy. Like that level of, and then Lan's facing someone who's essentially his own level of skill. They talk about like how they're pretty close in terms of like knows all his secrets and yeah, totally. But he knows all of his, right? And so they're able to sort of hurt each other the worst because they know each other the best, right? That level of betrayal. And then of course that leaves him with this, his by the end of the book, his father figure is dead and his best friend has betrayed him, and that leaves him open to this connection with Moraine that he otherwise, wouldn't take because he has ties to these other people in this other life.
Yeah. The few people that he cared about are dead by the end of the book, and one of them died actively betraying him and trying to kill him.
Right. So there's this like transfer of trust almost to Moraine.
Yeah. And so, Lan tries to say no to an invitation to sleep with a barmaid, which turns into him being unable to say no without dishonor, which I just find incredibly confusing and toxic and not ideal for anybody. That's not how no is supposed to work. Oh, I'm so coy that no means yes. Like, what? Words need to mean what they mean. And I also don't get the whole concept of like flirting with women is the same thing as taking them to bed. Like, you're allowed to strike up a conversation with a woman without it necessarily leading to sex, like his respect of women is kind of incelly. Like women are only sexual and romantic objects. They can't just be people.
And I always get Raquel, and isn't Rochelle like Oliver's babysitter? Isn't that also Roselle? Yeah, like very similar names, very similar sort of personalities, which are these like kind of sexy women in inns.
Don't you know all bartenders are actually really eager to sleep with you? They're not just doing their job. They're actually particularly interested in sleeping with you, the customer they're talking to right now.
Knew it. God damn it, I should have acted on those impulses more.
Yeah. No, they're just doing their job. Stop flirting with them. But apparently this one really wants to sleep with Lan. And
unless they actually give you their number, in that case, they are flirting back. It can happen.
Well, yes.
But don't assume. And it's not going to happen to you. Don't worry. If you're listening to the podcast, it's not happening to you. You're fine.
It might.
Yeah.
Never say never.
Odds are, even if you're a very attractive person.
I don't think that's how most people want to do their flirting, because they are trying to get to the end of their shift.
Exactly. This is the funny thing. So I always say that, and then my wife never is like, well, I was working at a restaurant, and I know if you came in, I absolutely would have flirted with you and given you my number. And I was like, but I never would have responded to that. She's like, I would have made sure you responded. And I was like, I don't know if you could have gotten me, like...
The obliviousness is strong with this one.
Yeah, like I'm really pretty good at being oblivious. Like you definitely only succeeded in flirting with me because of the situation we were in, where I didn't have much of a choice.
Thank you, COVID.
But, yeah. But no, I do wonder about that. That's something we talk about, where she insists that she would have flirted with me enough that I would have flirted back, and I'm just like, I don't know if there's any level at which I would have made that assumption.
You would have had to use like the elementary school, like, do you like me? Yes, no. But like,
right,
she's doing both sides of the conversation. I like you, check.
Yeah. Here, do you like me? And then puts it down, holds my hand, writes the other check in with my hand. Anyway, it makes me wonder if he's like, honestly, it kind of reminds me of Roxanne, like Rachel, Russell, right? Roxanne, right? I wonder if he's doing some reference there. That's all.
Maybe.
That's what started this whole conversation.
So the next thing I have is that Reen says, oh, yeah, the guy that I was doing merchant caravan stuff for, he was really lucky, and then someone killed him, and that's a real shame. Looks like I have to find new employment now. And I'm like, someone killed him, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Someone.
You dark friend, yeah.
Mr. Man that I know is a dark friend, and you know that this guy was really lucky. So, like, you definitely got a secret dark friend note that said, yeah, that employer you've been enjoying working for, because he's kind of lucky, slit his throat and make it look like a robbery. And he did.
Yep.
That's my headcanon.
Oh, I 100% agree. That was my headcanon before we even talked about it. So when we arrive at the same headcanon independently, it's pretty much guaranteed it's a Jordan intention.
Yeah.
One of my favorite little audio snippets of Robert Jordan is when he says he listens to the audiobooks because that helps him tell whether he was being obvious enough about his clues.
That is
because sometimes
good part, yeah.
he's not. And I'm like, you and I think, catch a lot of the clues that he thinks weren't obvious enough, because we do overanalyze these. But I do think that, like, yeah, we catch some of the ones that otherwise he thought were very obvious and are not.
Yeah. Well, in fairness, most people only read these books once or twice.
There's a shocking number of people who cannot stop rereading them.
It's true. They're all our friends.
Well, they may be overrepresented in my social sampling, but also, like, they're outside of people I've met through the podcast. There are people in real life who I've met who do love reading these books over and over again. It's not just us nerds. There are some, especially some military people I've noticed.
Right, because it's the whole, I can only take so many books, so I'll take the fattest one I can sort of thing.
Right.
So yeah, Rain brings up the woman, Lan's Carnaira, Lady Errol. He's the one that brings it up and says, oh, didn't you know that she's raised the golden crane because you're dead, supposedly? Right, because Lan's, learning that he's supposed to be dead, according to rumor.
So how is she raising the golden crane if he's supposed to be dead? Is she, like, saying in his,
your
like,
name, of course.
Okay, right, whatever.
Yeah, she is going to do, because Lan's a symbol. Lan's a martyr. lands a thing she can tie on a stick and wave above the crowds, right? And this is, posited as, this is Moraine has reason to think that people are assassinating her because of the Kyrianan thing. Lan has reason to think people are trying to assassinate him because of this Golden Crane thing, right? He has this whole question of, is my death actually necessary politically now? Is that why I'm being targeted? And we, of course, know it's because he's lucky and the Dark Friend thing, right? Both of them have a red herring reason to believe that they're being targeted for assassination that covers up the actual reason.
Totally. And it's such a stupid reason, too. It's like, well, if you're lucky, you could be an early channeler, so therefore you must die. But it's like rumors of luck. How do you prove someone's lucky? You try and kill them, and if they survive, they're lucky.
Everyone calls them lucky.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah, I mean, it's got the same kind of logic of, like, if you throw a tied-up woman into a lake and she floats, then she's a witch. And if she drowns, then she was not a witch. And if she's a witch, then you should burn her. So either way, she's dead.
She's dead, right. Yeah. And that seems to be what happens with Lan here, where they orchestrate this attack on him to find out if he's lucky. And if he survives it, well, then he's lucky and he needs to be killed. It's just like, wait, so he's dead either way.
Dark Friends just like killing. They really do. They'll do whatever brain pretzels they got to do to justify another murder.
And not all Dark Friends are murder hungry. Like, Suian was never murder hungry. She just wanted to climb the ladder. She wanted more power, but she didn't want to kill people to do it. But she was willing to kill people to do it.
True. So yeah, Lan has like an immediate like trauma response to the mention of this lady, because he then hears birds singing and is like, oh yeah, those birds were first singing the first time that this lady approached me for sex. And he just wanders off and does not talk to his friend anymore. It's like he's clearly very upset, and it can't all just be the political implications. There is a deep emotional reaction as well. And so yeah, he goes out to the stables and paces until stable people are like, run away. And then he takes out his ring, the ring that he's going to someday use as an engagement ring with Nynaeve. And he looks at it and thinks very like grouchy thoughts that have nothing to do with ultimately using it as a engagement ring to his future wife.
Right. Because he's got the 4 things. He's got the locket with his parents. Do we ever see that locket again? I can't remember.
I don't think we do. I'm assuming that it gets lost or ruined somewhere between here and the start of Eye of the World.
I think it might get ruined in this book. I don't.
When she throws him into the pond, does she ruin his fucking locket? Is it Moraine's fault?
That would be pretty funny. But I want it to be destroyed in the final fight for some reason. I don't know why that's in my mind as something that happens, but probably not.
Yeah, because I don't recall that from the main books.
I don't either. Yeah. I just want that to be a thing. The ring we talked about, the sword, which is, of course, right, like the sword, and then his oath, which, is that really a thing? I guess it's a thing.
He has decided it's a thing, so it's a thing. He thinks about his whole, he never leads men into the blight. Sometimes men will ride with him, but he will never lead.
Which, as since we're doing this in between,
it's gonna change, bud.
Towers of Midnight and A Memory of Light, we just saw him leading all those people into a death charge, which is exactly what he didn't want to do.
Well, we saw him accept it. We saw Nynaeve use the ring, do what Aiden was unable to do, make it happen, and we saw him actually say the sentence, "The Golden Crane flies." But here he is saying the Golden Crane will never fucking fly.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, then we think about the tradition of the Carne era, 1,000 years of tradition. He had been 15, Aiden more than twice that, when she just decided that she was going to take his virginity and make him her arm candy for a year?
Yeah, something like that.
Half a year, which only ended because his uncles made him a full man with the sword and everything. And then he decided to go off and be a soldier. The whole situation's very weird. But again, he was 15. She was more than twice that. She was in her 30s. I'm assuming she was not in her 40s. I'm assuming more than twice that means twice that and change, so in her 30s.
Less than 3 times that.
Yes. I think that's safe to say. She was under 45, somewhere between 30 and 45.
And then he immediately, goes into the flame in the void, the Code D, after thinking about that.
Disassociation.
Exactly.
Do not think about your emotions. Take all those emotions and just burn them away. We can't be having an emotional reaction to being, assaulted repeatedly. That would be weird. And no, he's not traumatized. He's just drawn to the play. It's just the blight. It's just the conflict of interest. It's not actually that he didn't want to get banged by a woman twice his age.
No, now he seeks death.
Yeah, just because of that oath, not because of having his, autonomy and personal space violated by someone old enough to be his parent.
Couldn't become a nihilistic because of that.
Nah.
No. And no reason that would be mentioned here.
No.
No, it's like looking at it there, like, oh my God, yeah, it's obvious that he's feeling a certain way about life.
Yeah.
And trauma. Yeah.
It's been 10 years since that happened, and he is still like very immediately upset by mention of her name. Yeah, Vuji, RJ made a straight version of the Greeks, for sure. That whole thing. But it's cool because it's women having control and consent, and that means that it's fine because men don't need control and consent. That's just for women. Gross. Also, remember, in the Valkyrie tradition, the young girl gets to decide which old man she's going to bang, right? The young girl will be banging an old man. Like, that's assumed. But at least she gets to choose which old man it's going to be. And by old, I just mean, twice and change her age. Not necessarily like old. But same deal, right? Like, her daughter goes to Lan and says, I want you to be my first lover. And it's like, that's just, no, you're far too young for him. That's nasty. And granted, yes, Nynaeve is even younger, but Nynaeve is at least an adult when she decides to fall in love with him. Like, yes, they have a big age gap, but Nynaeve is at least like not a literal teenager when she makes that choice.
That's my defense.
Yeah, age gaps are fine when both parties are sufficiently aged up. A huge age gap when the younger party is like a properly cooked adult is like, all right, whatever. People do what they want to do.
Yeah, age gaps are fine. You're like, you're 25 and, 40 now. That's a pretty big age gap. And which is fine until you go, how long have you been dating? And if they say anything more than a year or two, or, whatever wait, how old did I make her? 25? If it's more than 7 years, you have to worry, right? Like, that's the point where you start to go, oh, that's too much.
Yeah.
Even anywhere close to 7 years, really.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's I think where some of the hesitation around age gap comes from, is where you're like, well, I mean, at your current age, that's fine, but how long have you been dating?
Right. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe forgetting the Valkyrie traditions and letting those go out of style would be a good thing. Maybe bringing Valkyrie traditions back is not always inherent good.
I do think it's an interesting way to sort of make the culture of Malkier very foreign to us. There's this like respecting woman culture that the Two Rivers has, but there's something almost fanatical to it where the Two Rivers would never put up with that kind of like control of a woman over a man. The men would be like, no, I don't respect you that much.
I think also maybe it's like part of the urban versus rural thing, right? Like, the Valkyrie, like, that's a very
city level.
It's presented to us as like what the lords and ladies and the nobility and the high class people are doing. Whereas the Two Rivers is an agrarian community where everyone has to work.
I don't know. Althor is clearly a noble name, so he must be the king.
But like in that sort of agrarian system, everyone has to put in physical labor. Like, no one can be on top just lounging around directing armies. There are no armies to direct. So yeah, you just can't be as weird about it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk about the battle at all?
So, yeah, Bukama comes out and tries to talk to Lan about all of it. Lan gets grouchy, and then an assassination attempt rolls up, and Lan has to go from fighting with Bukama to fighting for Bukama in very short order.
It does feel a little bit like a drive-by, just this like, wait, what? He's just standing outside. How did they know to go after him then?
Well, because the Dark Friends are coming for him. And also, like, Rain just showed up and tapped in and was like, hey, you still lucky with women? Let me just go take a call out back real quick.
Right. Wow, you're super lucky. Yeah.
Like, that's literally what happens. He shows up, says, oh, you still have uncanny luck with women. And then immediately 6 men show up and try to kill him. Like, Come on.
Well, and also his luck in surviving, like, the fall of Malkier, right? You could go back to be like, oh, yeah, his life has been very lucky.
Well, yeah, but this was a check-in for, like, right now. Like, the timing of this is just right there. And Bukama, remember, can't use his sword because he promised that he wouldn't, and his promise matters more than his life. So he has to watch Lan, the little baby that he protected with his life, go into a suicide fight to protect him, the man who tried to die for him a bajillion times over the last 20 years, right? Like, Bukama has to calmly walk into the barn and protect himself because Lan gave him an order, and Lan might very well die protecting him. And he's like, I'm an old man. I tried to protect you. And he has to just go sit in a barn because his word is so important.
He's also not carrying a sword, so,
Well, that too. Yeah. And he's not quite Nail. His hands and feet are dangerous, but he's not Nail. Yeah, like Blinded Fool. Apparently, Diamondred never heard about this fight. Otherwise, he would have been smarter about when Lan rolled up and was like, bitch, I'ma kill you. And Lan comes up and is like, so you know how you just defeated 2 swordsmen? I've defeated 6. But also, that was 20 years ago? I don't know. Diamondred should have heard about this fight.
Yeah, but Lan has only gotten better at fighting, not worse.
Is that realistic? To spend 20 years getting your body absolutely hammered by all of this activity and stuff, and to actually not have like arthritis be slowing you down after 20 years?
Yes, but for 2 reasons. One, he is on the outer edge of what's possible, right? But he's inside of that. And 2, he's got Aes Sedai healing and Aes Sedai warder bonded strength, all of which are going to make those things
that's true.
less,
The warder
take
bond
less of
and
the warder
healing.
bond.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so that just the continuous training, if you sprain something, heal it, right? Like Moraine, you're not going to have to worry about it. And yeah, the warder bond means you can train harder and longer than anybody else. So yeah, I think it's totally reasonable for someone like that to continue to train for that amount of time. Because we do see athletes in their early 40s who still perform at a professional level. I won't say as good as they were, but they still perform at a professional level.
Yeah. But I don't know, being a soldier and a bodyguard is way harder on the body than being a professional athlete, I think.
I don't know. It's probably a lot of training with only a few moments of terror in between. Whereas I feel like being a professional athlete, the games happen frequently enough where you take some damage, you can hurt yourself. And that one injury takes you out, right? But with Aes Sedai healing, you're right back in the game.
Yeah. So yeah, Lan thinks about how only in stories is this possible. And then because it's a story, it's possible.
Yeah, it does feel like a little nod to just like, oh yeah, this is ridiculous, but I'm doing it anyway because it's Lan.
And Lan is super deep in the meditation, right? It's almost like he's on the edge of being able to channel, but I think that he doesn't. He's not actually a potential channeler. He doesn't get
no, unlike
the
Galad.
full dissociation. And exactly. Comparing this to Galad, I'm like, okay, this is what a non-channeler's experience of the depths of this meditation looks like. This is what someone who doesn't have the ability to channel experiences when they do every other mental step. This is what that looks like.
And also Lan's kind of a badass.
Yeah, no, he's a super badass.
So they decide he has to basically confront the army and, this false golden crane that's been raised. So they're headed to Jonchin.
Yeah, he wants to avoid it, nearly gets taken out by 6 assassins and decides that actually you're going to have to face that directly instead of running away from it.
Because he thinks that the assassins were being sent by this woman. Adolin? How do you say it?
Eden?
Yeah, Aiden.
Yeah, he's the only way to keep this from continuing, as he thinks it, is to go tell her to stop, right? He thinks that she's going to keep coming after him unless he deals with it. And, that's not what's happening, but it motivates him to get into Moraine's way. That's what counts.
They are on a collision course.
Yeah, and he thinks that facing the blight, his literal death, would be easier than facing his former rapist lover.
And next week we do a 3-month jump with Moraine, and so we're on the same timeline again.
And we will get to bring them together? Do we get to bring them together next week?
Pretty sure by the time we get done. Let's see.
Yeah, we get to do Pond Water next week. So, yeah, excellent. We're over halfway through the book, and Moraine and Lan are almost meeting.
And we get to hang out with Codswain and suspect her of being black.
Yes.
Because that's still not clear in the book series at the time this was published.
It's a good red herring. Kept me strung along. Like Blinded Fool describing Lan's training regime. Well, see, there's this evil guy that made these super aggressive monsters, and they attack me with giant poison blades every day, and the plants also try to kill me. That's Lan's training regime.
Wait, so Lan is just Mario?
But he doesn't eat mushrooms because he's a very straight-laced, non-interesting person in that way. So he would never eat the mushrooms. No.
I don't believe you.
Not until Nynaeve shows that some mushrooms are good for eating.
I cannot believe they didn't get freaky in the forest at least once with some mushrooms.
Yeah, you would think that the Valkyrie would have some, like, go out in the woods, build a big bonfire, and take a handful of shrooms kind of ceremonies. It seems like that'd be a kind of like earthy, old-timey Valkyrie thing to do. Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. And on that note, I think that's the end of the 3 chapters we were going to cover today.
It is. There's a readout if you want, but yeah, that's all of my annotated stuff.
I can do a readout. He spread his hands at the looks Lan and Bukama shot him. I make no accusations, he said hastily. I'd never accuse the Lady Eden of any such thing. I'm sure she is full of all a woman's tender mercy. Mistress Arovini gave a grunt hard as a fist, and Lyra murmured half under her breath that the pretty Arafellan knew little about women. Lan shook his head, not in denial. Eden might decide to have him killed if it suited her purposes. She might have left orders here and there in case the rumors about him proved false. But if she had, that was still no reason to speak her name in connection with this, especially in front of strangers. Bukama's hand stilled, holding open a slash down Lan's sleeve. Where do we go from here? He asked quietly. Cha-chin, Lan, after a moment. There was always a choice, but sometimes every choice was grim. You'll have to leave Sunlance. I mean to depart at first light tomorrow. His gold would stretch to a new mount for the man. 6, Rain growled, sheathing his sword with considerable force. I think I'll ride with you. I'd as soon not go back to Shoal Arbella until I'm sure Celine Norman doesn't lay her husband's death at my boots, and it will be good to see the golden crane flying again. Lan nodded, to put his hand on the banner and abandon what he had promised himself all those years ago, or to stop her, if he could. Either way, he had to face Eden. The blight would have been so much easier. And so, yeah, him being pulled off his quest to confront someone using his reputation in a way he doesn't approve.
Yeah.
And Rain, I don't want her to lay his death at my feet, because I killed him! Well, yeah.
Oh, Vuji has a question in chat. How did Lan earn a living? There's a mention in this chapter, I think, or the prior one, where he mentions having estates granted to him in Shinar that he could get like an advance from a bank on to get money from. He mentions it briefly. He's got estates in Shinar. So I don't know who's stewarding them for him or how he's accessing that money, but it is a throwaway line. Yeah, he's a landlord. It's kind of unfortunate. But that's the only way that the nobility of medieval Europe has ever had money, right? And that's, the base palette for this.
One assumes it was gifted to him by one of the kings. It's probably managed by that country. He probably has nothing to do with it other than the money that it brings in.
Right, because he was raised in Shinar. I think that was the country that they went to raise him. So yeah, presumably like King Isar or whoever was king at the time was like, here, have one of my estates. It'll do for your inheritance or whatever.
Destroyed kingdom, yeah.
Mows the lawn by practicing sword forms. Decapitate the
forms.
Dandelions! Bam! Yeah, we didn't even talk about the excellent sword fighting scene. We just kind of blew by it. But, it's Robert Jordan listing off sword forms, having a good time. Time like cool honey. It was fun. I enjoyed reading it, but there's not much to talk about because it's like, Jordan does what he does best, which is have a blade master do blade master
really cool
things.
Sword fight, right. And because it's not an analog for anything, it's not an analogy, it's just Lan being a badass and taking out 6 fighters in a really cool scene.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
Please rate and review us on your podcast app, and consider supporting us on Patreon for ad-free episodes. What Spoilers is a production of Fox and Raven Media. For more podcasts from Fox and Raven Media, visit our website at foxandravenmedia.com.